tell your friend. We touch down in splinters.
Press pound.
You give me something I need, yeah. You give me something I bleed, yeah. You give me something I crave, oh, I really need you too. I really wanna feel great now, so let me have my way now. No one ever gonna leave, cause I'm so invested in you. Cause I really feel a vibe every time you set the right down. And nobody like this, man, it's nothing like this, and it's nothing like you. Nothing and nobody like you. And every single time you touch, no one ever wanna stop, because I always wanna let you know that I love you so much, it's and nobody like you. Nothing and nobody like you. So, make me ball out. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Make me ball out. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Because you're special to me. Special to me. Very special. Very special. Whoa, whoa. Because you're special to me. Me. Very special. Very special. Whoa. Like the sunlight and the rainfall, like the daytime and the night come. I'll be sure now, bound to come back. Please don't fall off, don't break my heart. Like the moon now and the star shine. Give me all now, not a fraction. Get to the point now, so just full stop till the last beat and the heart stop. Sir, I really feel a vibe every time you set it right down. And nobody like this and nobody like you. Nothing and nobody like you. So we tell them, and every single time we touch, no one ever wanna stop, cause I wanna let you know that I love you so much. And it's nobody like you. Make me ball out. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Make me ball out. Long time is a overdue. Long time is a overdue. Because you're special to me. Special to me. Very special. Very special. Whoa, whoa. Because you're special to me. Me. Very special. Very special. Whoa, whoa.
Hi, good night. Welcome back to the bench meeting. It's been an exciting week in sports as usual. It's exciting to be back here with you to deliver a quick update as to what happened over the last week or so. And also later on tonight, I'm going to be sitting down with some colleagues because for me it was a particularly interesting weekend. This entire sports reporting and sports broadcasting has been opening up many new doors, and one such opportunity presented itself over the weekend, and I'll be eager to discuss it some more with everyone. And as I said, I have two colleagues, senior colleagues in this business, I should say, that will be joining me here tonight to have a little discussion about sports broadcasting on the whole and where we can take it in SKN, given all the resources that we have at our disposal and the challenges presented by COVID-19. So, needless to say, we can kick it off with the NFL, just to get through it as quickly as we possibly can. Why? Because my Tampa Bay Buccaneers suffered a humiliating 38-3 loss to Drew Brees and the Saints. So the rest of the results doesn't really have much weight for me, in the sense that I'm a known Tom Brady fan, and that was a proper 3 interceptions on the night. It's not a good showing from him, and the Saints ensured that they showed their dominance in that division. Dolphins 34-31 over the Cardinals. Steelers put away the Cowboys 24-19. The Raiders 31-26 over the Chargers. Texans 27-25 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. The New York Giants got a win 23-20 over Washington. The Vikings got a win over the Lions, the Detroit Lions. The Kansas City Chiefs 33-31. Patrick Mahomes continuing his run over the Carolina Panthers. Baltimore Ravens enjoyed a 24-10 victory over the Colts, Indianapolis Colts. Comfortable enough victory. The Titans put away the Bears 24-17. That's a full touchdown. The Bills put away the Seahawks 44-34. and the Falcons disposed of the Broncos 34-27. The Green Bay Packers bounced back from last week's defeat to defeat the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers 34-17. Tonight it will be the Patriots, whom have been having a horrid season, Brady-less, against the New York Jets. They said the New Jersey Jets. So yeah, that will be popping up later on. On to the IPL, Premier League. And Jason Holder's run with the Sunrisers Hyderabad had been halted in scintillating fashion by the Delhi Capitals, and our very own Shimron Hetmyer actually played a very a major role in this one. He closed the innings with 22 ball 42, something to that effect, but it was consisted of 2 sixes, 4 fours, but it was a very good enterprising knock. He had not been in the side, he's been in and out of the side throughout the season, and Delhi chose the right time to bring him when they needed him most. So it will be the Delhi Capitals with Shimron Hetmyer coming up against the West Indies T20 captain Kieron Pollard, and the Pandya brothers and the Mumbai Indians, the perennial champions. So it would be an interesting matchup tomorrow, and I'll be keen to bring you the results next week once we are here on the show. But Jason Holder, who was the real feel-good story of the entire IPL to me, his run came to a sudden end after the inroads he had made, or I think it was a 5-match winning run that they were on leading up into that knockout match. So tomorrow's final should be exciting nonetheless, and we'll see how these guys fare off. The Delhi Capitals versus the Mumbai Indians. The English Premier League. It's exciting as usual. Results from throughout the weekend. Let me start by first saying that Manchester United have been able to recover in fine fashion with a lovely 3-1 victory over Everton. Well-deserved victory. Bruno Fernandes took the game by the scruff of his neck, and he scored 2 and assisted 1 when he could have actually scored 3. So it was really his game to shine, and he stepped up. Crystal Palace put Leeds to the sword 4-1. They're showing their Premier League experience against the up-and-comers. Chelsea, Hakim Ziyech is beginning to show himself a little bit more. 4-1 over Sheffield United. Thorough chunks in that. West Ham squeaked a 1-0 over Fulham to keep their run going. They've been showing some fine form so far this season. Brighton and Burnley went to the only draw for the entire weekend, 0-0 draw for that matter. Southampton went temporarily to the top of the table with a 2-0 victory over Newcastle. That would have been on Friday. Then we came over into the weekend, where the team that put Manchester United away last week suffered a quite embarrassing, I would even go so far as to say shambolic 3-0 to Aston Villa of all people. Our boy Jack Grealish, who really I still say should be in our team right now, put the Arsenal Gunners to the sword. So it's joked now that what happened was that Arsenal had used out all of their ammunition. So the Gunners had used out all the ammunition in the game against Manchester United. Mind you, they only had 2 shots on target, one of which was a penalty. But apparently they utilized all their bullets against Manchester United and came firing pure blanks and were not even able to get on the scoreboard. So, yeah, Gunners, I guess you really aren't as much as you may have thought you were coming out of last week's victory. Manchester City, and in particular Kevin De Bruyne, threw away a great chance to put Liverpool to the sword. They had to settle for a 1-1 draw, entertaining draw nonetheless, but it was typical of both wounded champions, former champions. Slug it out for a little while. VAR came into the play a few times, but at least it wasn't short on entertainment. So, yeah. Leicester also maintained their positive early season form with a 1-0 victory over the Wolves. And the Spurs, again showing their title credentials by topping West Brom 1-0, grinding out these wins and maintaining relevance in the top of the table. On to some quick European football. The European Bundesliga, they had the Klassiker played this weekend, and Bayern Munich put Dortmund to the sword, 3-2, with Lewandowski haunting his former club yet again, and they maintaining their dominance in the Bundesliga, with Leipzig coming up second in that league. In Spain, La Liga, everything is upside down right now as Real Madrid suffered a 5-2 demolition. So those Real Madrid fans, you obviously were missing Casemiro and you were obviously missing Eden Hazard, but that's still no excuse. Oof. It's like playing a Segunda B side there, 5-2, 3 of which were penalties scored by Soler. Soleil, apologies, allow me to pronounce the man's name correct. He scored the hat-trick after all. Real Madrid aren't feeling very good. On the other hand, now Barcelona, having suffered their issues in the past, have recovered for a 5-2 victory where Messi started off the bench and was able to come and make an impact as soon as he came on. So Barcelona, but the entire La Liga table at this point in time looks topsy-turvy, with Real Sociedad top, Villarreal second, Atletico Madrid in third, Real Madrid in fourth, and I can't even see Barcelona so far in the standings of the table. Juventus also suffered a setback in Serie A this week. So all the big teams that would probably have to face our Manchester United at some point in time or the other have faced some sort of setback. And in Serie A this time, it was Juventus that drew 1-1 to Lazio, who nicked to join the very end. And then Ronaldo limped off injured. So I'm hoping that he can get back well. But in the meanwhile, Zlatan Ibrahimovic and AC Milan are leading on points in Serie A with 17. I'm not sure if many non-footballers or persons who aren't very familiar with football would know about Sassuolo, but that in itself will tell you the fact that they're at this point in time second in Serie A will give an idea as to the level of upheaval that's taking place there. Then you've got Napoli in third, Roma in fourth, and Juventus all the way down in fifth. 13 points off 7 games. So, yeah, these top European big guns seem to be struggling over the weekend and actually struggling within their own leagues. So, maybe I've often said this is an ideal time for a dark horse to take the Champions League by the scruff of the neck, because many of these teams are not showing the type of form that they need to at this point in time. Mind you, long ways to go still. I want to go into some quick local football just to give the results, but we'll have a lot more discussion on it over the next few minutes, as my two guests will. One of the major parts of our discussion revolves around local football. But just before the break, I will just make a quick run through as to this weekend's games, and then once we take the break, we will introduce both of them, and we'll be able to kick off in a bit more of an analytical and intense discussion on football as well as other types of broadcasting in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, on the 6th of the 11th, that would have been Friday, Connery put Security Forces FC 6-0. That's a proper trouncing. I was there for that game. It was not a good showing at all by the Security Forces. Newtown United FC succumbed to St. Peter's 4-1. Trafalgar South Stars, in the battle of the relegation, fighters came out on top of Mantab United 3-1. Keon FC drew 2-2 with Village Superstars. The league leaders dropping points at this point in time. I guess they're resting some players preparing for the Super 6. United Old Road Jets trying to see if they can get into the Super 6 with a 6-1 victory over Sadlers FC. I'm seeing SPD still, but I'm told that it's Saddlers now. And then the final game last night, Garden Hotspurs went down 1-4 to St. Paul's, having gone up 1-0 within the first few minutes of the game. So Garden Hotspurs gave up an opportunity to secure a top 6 finish. And really and truly, as I said, we'll discuss it a bit more, their fates lie in the hands of other teams. So, with that being said, and we will go into some more details on it. Oh, I should also mention, before I go quickly, just the St. Kitts Nevis Volleyball Association is having a 4x4 competition going on right now. And the first 2 results from over the weekend were the Inner City defeated Mob Squad 25-13, 25-21. And the Campbell Douglas Trophy, which is the trophy for the best player of the night, went to Azil Bell. And then last night, the Bucks defeated Alpha 25-15, 25-17, with Taji Hamilton being the Campbell Douglas Bell winner as the best player for the night trophy. So I will try to be a bit more detailed going forward. I have sought out some of the results, and I'll try to be a bit more detailed, as I said, and a bit more concise as it relates to those volleyball results going forward, as the competition only started over the last weekend. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll invite our guests in, and we'll kick it off from there.
Sweet and me darling, 'cause what you do I'm me balling. Whoa, what I feel it. Say baby I come to wine. Chase some of that, yeah, have a good time. It's all I want, yeah. So come give me all of that, yeah. I say best believe, oh yeah. When I find it, girl, I'm not moving. How you grooving it? Stay with me, oh yeah. So girl, I hope in that I'm not too late. Have me losing it. And when she jam down there, then I jam down there. And when she ting down there, then I swing down there. Now let this go, now let this go, now let this go, now let this go. The way she jam down there, then I jam down there. And then she swing down there, so I swing down there. Now let this go, now let this go, now let this go. The girl on me up and she night and day. Girl on me up when she wind down there. Girl how you rock on the line right there. Now give it up 'cause she nice right there. And when she ting down there, I swing down there. Girl on me up and she night and day. Now let this go, now let this go, now let this go, now let this go. Right now me act like I catch a fever. Want to be a whining receiver, 'cause all you do make me a believer, baby. Don't be no teaser, no. Say baby I come to wine. Chase some of that, yeah, have a good time. It's all I want, yeah. So come give me all of that, yeah. I say best believe, oh yeah. When I find it, girl, I'm not
Carnival, I love you so. Patrice again. When I go down, high out of my mind, looseness in my waist, not to answer shame. No shame, washing up my spine, making up my face, not to answer shame. No shame, they don't know me already. When it come to party, I just wine and go down and wine and go down and wine and go down full stop. And everybody, they just talk about me with my hand in the air and rum in my head. Why not doing it?
me then. Nah.
Yeah, welcome back to the bench meeting. And I have with me two of my senior colleagues, as I mentioned. This is my first, second month in this kind of role. And I know you guys have been at this, in some cases, 2 decades and some. So welcome. We have Mr. Loshaun Dixon from the St. Kitts Nevis Observer. And we have the ever-present Mr. Andie Huie, whom persons will be familiar with from his days here at Win FM as well too, from SKN Newsline. And what I before we even begin, I wanted to say thanks to Andie for allowing me the opportunity to commentate my first game last night, the game between St. Paul's and Spurs. It was a very interesting experience, a very eye-opening experience. I really did enjoy it, and it definitely opened a lot more in terms of my thought process as far as, football and where it could go, even here in the Federation, given the resources that we have. Yeah. So without giving too much away, we can begin with Loshaun, telling the audience a little bit about yourself, seeing that you're the one that maybe more known than me, but lesser known amongst us all.
Well, I'm Loshaun Dixon. I've been on the show, the previous Monday night show.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
Before, as you said, I work for the St. Kitts Nevis Observer. I started working in news in 2011 as a 19-year-old. My first story was a sports story, actually. And so, but my entire life has been revolved around sports. Ever since I knew myself, I always wanted to play cricket. I still do play some cricket, but I've been seeking alternative pathways in cricket other than playing. But I've always loved cricket and football.
You commentate on cricket as well?
Sometimes
Okay.
when there's the opportunity. But I do other stuff as well in cricket. I'm a part of the St. Kitts Cricket Association's media committee, where we go on promoting the activities of the St. Kitts Cricket Association. I also take pictures for the Cricket Association when they have any cricketing events and do press releases for them as well. I thanks to Andie, I do some commentating on football. I do some football analysis for the local Premier Division. I also, in the past, have worked closely with the SKN AAA in track and field, and also with in high school. I played table tennis for a brief moment. So I have
well-rounded sporting background.
I have a lot of work in sport.
Excellent, and you've always seen yourself maintaining that connection with sports throughout career, and as well as
fun. even though I'm not necessarily a sports reporter, because as in St. Kitts we do
have to do everything.
Media houses don't necessarily hire sports people. I still remain connected in sports and do a lot of sports writing, regardless. And it's just something I love. I love to see people competing against each other. I love to compete against other people. It's something that I love to do.
Okay, excellent. Nice to meet you, Andie. Sorry, Loshaun. Andie, I don't even know if we have time to go through the history, but I mean, there's obviously a passion that drives. It's 20 years now you say in the business. Yes. And it does not seem as if you have any sort of tiredness in you at all. There's always this relentless drive to do and come better, because every single time I've seen you reinvent yourself and reinvent your methods and everything else, and it's always something new and innovative. What drives that part of it?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and thanks again for coming on the commentary last night. I thought you did a great job, and I'm expecting even greater things. But as Loshaun said, and I have the same sentiment. I have a passion for sport. I love sports. As you've said, I've been in the media now for 20 years, spanning Jamaica, St. Martin, and here. And I remember several times I at least one of the media houses I worked at, I always wanted to do sports,
Okay.
as in sports reporting, because that was primarily news. And I remember one time my editor said to me at one of the newspapers I worked that he didn't want me to put me in sports because he felt he would be losing a talent in the newsroom.
Okay.
And he didn't feel like, sports was that significant for me too. But I've always had a passion for sports reporting. So I would do it every time I get the opportunity, separately from news. So now that I'm running my own entity, I get to dabble into sports. I also am very grateful to the Football Association because they've given me the opportunity to assist them in the media section as a media consultant. So that gives me the opportunity to live out my passion for sports, and especially a sport like football, which I love very much. So that is what drives me, really, just loving sports. I mean, I pay attention to a lot of the international and regional sports media. So, like Loshaun, because I realize he's a big fan of talk sports.
Right.
He listens to talk sports
Yeah.
regularly. I listen to BBC and ESPN podcasts when it comes to football and other sports. So, it's just that passion for sports.
It's always there. It
Always
doesn't
there.
go away. I don't know if it's because we live vicariously through these guys and teams on the field. We need to kind of tell it from the way we see it,
Yes.
which is always a unique perspective, because sometimes, as even last night, you're sitting down, you're watching a game, and the two persons watching the same game and getting two different
perspectives.
Yeah, two different perspectives. It's quite exciting.
Yeah.
In terms of now, this new thrust by the SKNFA in collaboration with SKN Newsline is obviously revolutionizing how we were doing sports reporting in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I do think there's a lot of potential in it. Where is that concept coming from, and where do you see it going?
Well, in discussion with the FA, I've started doing work with them around 2017, and just from conversations with them, I know they always had an intention to broadcast the games. It was always a vision of theirs to broadcast the games to fans in St. Kitts and Nevis and beyond.
And beyond, right.
And they did try it some time ago, some years back with ZIZ, but that didn't last very long. And so, in collaboration with one of my business associates, who is also into the same field of media, we decided that we could offer something to the FA to help fulfill this vision. And so last year, we just got the ball rolling on it. Then the lockdown came, and so that kind of set us back a bit. But it was actually a blessing in disguise, because it gave us an opportunity to retool and to re-strategize. So if you compare the broadcast we did at the start of the season last year compared to now, it's a vast improvement.
Difference in quality.
Vast
everything.
improvement. Quality, video production, commentary, the whole package is a lot better. So the lockdown really gave us an opportunity to retool and find new tools that we could use. So we were just excited to have the opportunity to do this. And so when when the league restarted, we jumped at it.
Okay.
We did a test run prior to the start of the league. So Division 1 had started before. And so we did a test run with Division 1, and we realized, the kinks that we needed to work out. And so when we just got the broadcast up and running, and so people have been the response has been overwhelming.
Yes, I've seen it.
People are just elated to know that they can sit at home and watch football.
Especially with COVID now.
Especially with COVID, right. And, we're getting viewers from all over. I mean, people as far as in Europe and the US are tuning in. So it's an amazing thing.
Tell me, from your perspective, Loshaun, how has COVID impacted reporting, from sports reporting and news reporting on the whole, but sports reporting in particular, from your side of things, and how have you reinvented, how have you retooled to adapt to the new dynamic?
Well, COVID, as we all know, has impacted our lives in a way unimaginable by us before it actually happened. So, to bounce back from COVID, for lack of a better term, we had to find innovative ways of not only reporting on the sports, but connecting with people who involved in the sport, because it's not like once ago where I can just walk up to someone and stick a
microphone in your face, exactly.
Because of all the social distancing. We don't know how comfortable they might be with that. So sports reporting has definitely changed. Reporting in general, news in general has definitely changed because of COVID-19. We had to learn how to do things virtually. Even me and Andre, we normally do a football weekly show, and we had to resort to doing it.
So you do
virtually.
a virtual program now?
Yes, yeah.
Excellent.
So we had to resort to doing it virtually. I stay at home. He stays at his office most of the time, and we sit and we connect and we talk football, the local football, and it definitely has has made us evolve the way we look at sports.
Okay. Now, in my opinion, St. Kitts and Nevis, yes, we protected. Without going into the details, we are fortunate to not have this COVID as present as maybe some other countries. And thus it presents us with a unique opportunity to be able to host these games with some modicum of fans and yet still be able to present it. We have made steps. Where is the next step? Because part of where I'm trying to come from is, okay, I'm now doing these as of last night. I'm now doing these commentaries. And one of the things that I often wonder about is like we playbacks and stuff like that and being able to fit them in. Where are we in terms of being able to bring that type of dynamic into our commentary and into our reporting?
All right. Well, one of the good things about the broadcast we're doing now is that we're able to package it in a bite-sized piece for news and sports consumption. So
Okay.
the newscast and the sportscast, they're able to hear because after the game, I packaged the. Previously, I would just do the reporting, present a little bit of the action on the field, and then interview the coaches afterwards. Now I'm be able to bring in a bit of the commentary,
Right.
the highlights, the goals, and then the interviews afterwards. So that is one way. One of the things I would like to see eventually, not just for football, but for other sports, that other sports can use a similar model. Basketball is a big sport here.
Yes, it is.
So, the onus is probably on the Basketball Association then to see ways in which something similar can be offered to their fans. And especially when you consider, as you talk about COVID, there was a point in time when, prior to the restart of the league, we were wondering, okay, will the COVID task force allow fans back in the stadium? And if not, then this is going to come in very handy because now
Exactly.
people will be able to see the games, but virtually. Thankfully, we were, the Football Association was allowed at least half the capacity of the stadium. So that's a good thing. So at least fans can see the game still in real time. But in the event that couldn't have happened,
We still had that
we still had that option.
Serious question. How long do y'all plan to carry on with this? Is it feasible? Because Sugar Bowl said he used to do the same thing,
Yeah,
and it
Sugar Bowl
was
used to do-
quite expensive.
Yeah,
and
it is.
The support was not as he would have projected or wanted it to be sustainable and to keep going for a long time.
Well, that's a very good question. It's a wait and see situation. I think that what is going to happen, the Football Association has partnered with us. So at least part of the cost is covered in that sense. And the rest we hope to recoup from advertising. So that's why it's available for free. But I do know that there are plans to look at a pay-per-view model. And we know pay-per-view, when we talk about pay-per-view, we say, Caribbean people don't like to pay for things.
Right.
But people pay for Netflix. And people pay for, when the Nations League, actually, when the CONCACAF
Right.
streamed all the games. And there were some games, of course, we couldn't see because they were away games. And I knew there were people who paid the fee to watch it on CONCACAF. So if the product is good and the quality is good, then I think that we could put it out there and hopefully persons will understand the value of what we're putting out there and be willing to pay a fee. For right now, it's more like a freemium model, but we're hoping that in the not too distant future, that if it moves to that pay-per-view model, that it will be enough to sustain it.
We are making, as far as you told me, we are doing or attempting something like this for the FA Cup final.
Yes, we're exploring that possibility, which is actually on Wednesday.
Okay,
so
yes.
it's more like a test run to see how people would gravitate to it.
All right, and for our audience's purposes, how would they be able to access the
pay-per-view?
Yes.
Well, more than likely it will be on the SKNFA website.
Okay.
So once it's confirmed, we're just working out the technical bits. Once that's confirmed, then it will be advertised and people know, okay, they go to the sknfa.com and then they will find the link there.
And then you could probably even use that in itself as a selling tool to potential advertisers, given now that you could get your ads included
Right.
in the viewing, perhaps during the halftime or during breaks.
Yes.
Depending on how long extensive they are. Okay, so let's transition very quickly then to the current scenario that we are facing here with the SKNFA Super 6. I've been, strangely enough, I've only started watching the games over the past 3 weeks. I'll be brutally honest about that. But I guess I chose a proper time to do so because you're seeing the chasm in quality. You're seeing some teams beginning to find themselves. You're seeing some teams maintaining a particular type of momentum, and teams on the whole have been basically showing their true colors, their season colors at this point in time. For you and reporting this season, what are some of the highlights and some of the lowlights, given that we are now coming toward the end of the and the surprise packages, if any?
Well, some of the highlights I would say is the biggest highlight for me is the competitiveness of the league. Although the top four, we've been saying for weeks now, are safe, there's a race on for another 2 spots in the Super Sixes with at one point 5 teams fighting for 2 spots. So that was one of my highlights, and also the competition at the bottom of the table with 3 teams running away from 2 spots. So it's been a very competitive league this season. Also, what I've been impressed with is the amount of goals some of these players have been scoring. Keith White Freeman comes to mind, having scored 28 goals in 22 games.
Definitely a standout.
Tyrone Hanley as well. He's up there with, I think, 22 or so goals. Vince Roy Nelson, he has, I think he moved on to 24 the last game they played.
Okay.
Yes. So I think that's something that has impressed me. Some teams, individual teams, have also impressed me. Overload, for example, a team that should have been relegated last season, had this season been completed, they find themselves just outside a shot for the Super 6 playoffs. Sadler's a team. You could almost call it my second team. A team.
That's actually my team.
A team I vouch for time and time again, and the commentary and during our football show.
He's your biggest proponent.
they had a good run this season. They were for majority of the season in the top 6, but a few injuries and a few.
I thought they gave away a lot of. Over the last 2 to me, they gave away a lot of points. They were very winnable games, and for some reason they were not as focused as they should have been over the last. Because as I told you, I follow Sadler's pretty closely, and some of them, because I coached, assistant coach with Iroy with them for about a year, so I know a lot of these players personally. I know the potential that they have. It's kind of disappointing to see them not, at least, especially with these 6. They should have been.
I thought they would have been in the running, actually. And we talk about it almost every week when we do the show, that Sadler's was a team that I expected would have upset a lot of the teams that you expect to be in the playoffs.
Exactly.
And right now they are far from that.
Yes.
Yes, and one more thing I would like to mention is the character some of the teams have shown, especially teams like Newtown and Garden Hotspurs, who normally be at the top of the Premier League, but this season they've had the various issues and problems, and were out of the 6 for majority, out of contention for majority of the season. But since the restart, they have found new life and forced their way into contention into these games. So I thought that's something else I would like to highlight, the character they've shown to fight back and push through the adversity and to be in contention still for another playoff berth.
How about you, Andre? What has been significant for you?
Well, for me, and this was something we noted at the start of the season, where the number of goals were scored. I mean, every game was like a lot of goals, and that was exciting. I remember there were some games sometimes in the previous season where a whole weekend you'd go on and maybe 4 or 5 goals
Yeah,
would score out of all the matches. But not this season. This season has been a goal fest.
Yes,
And that's exciting for fans because fans like to see goals. So I found that was a good thing. I think maybe the low point, if there is any, would just be the interruptions. Because if you remember, we had a long layoff from last season. The season last season
Oh,
wasn't
yes,
completed.
right.
The Super 6 playoffs, we were looking forward to that. That didn't happen because of the impasse. And then, we had a late start to the season. So, okay, we're now reduced to 2 rounds of football. And then COVID happened.
Right.
So the interruptions kind of affected the flow of the league, and also affected the players because we saw a lot of players even with the restart being stretched off the field almost every game
With injuries.
with injuries. So that was probably the only disappointing thing. But I think there's good that could come out of it in the sense that teams that you didn't expect are now jostling for position in the playoffs.
Right.
And that makes it more exciting because now you never know, anybody could beat anybody on a given day. Yeah. So it's just that makes it even more exciting.
So let me throw the $6 million question then. Has the Super 6 improved the quality of the rounds, and in turn, do you think it will affect the quality of the Super 6 in of itself? Because if you look at the points disparity, the top 4, there's a 9-point disparity between the top 4 and the next 2. And you have about 4 teams in or around 30 points, but at least within 10 to 15 points of the top 4. So what I have noted, like you said, is that there's a lot more goals, there's a lot more excitement, because now you still have potentially 4 teams. I mean, theoretically, that can, mathematically speaking, can still make it into the top 6. But the chasm in quality is still notable. So these 2 teams that will be making up the Super 6, would they be bringing that unknown character quality or at the expense of you understand?
Yeah.
So that's where my next question is coming in.
Well, at first when the Super 6 was announced, I thought it would have washed out the league because I thought there were 6 good teams in the Premier Division.
Okay.
So I thought the 6 big guys, the Village, the St. Paul's, the Canary, Kean, Spurs, and Newtown, I thought they automatically would have been a certain pick to get into the 6, and I thought, okay. But at the beginning of this season, I realized Spurs had been struggling, Newtown had been struggling, and for a brief period, Canary has had their struggles. So although we might look at the table and see the top 4 way ahead of the rest of the pack, I still think there's a lot of competitiveness between those spots, because we've seen St. Peter's defeat Kean easily. In this Premier Division, we've seen Newtown defeat Canary and Kean and the others. We've seen Rams Village Superstars fall to someone I can't remember.
Well, it was Connery, and I think the following week was St. Peter's.
St. Peter's.
Yeah.
So it's not, although points wise it may look lopsided, I still think there's some competitiveness in there. I just think some teams had struggles throughout the season that led to them falling down the table. But I also thought the 6 gave teams like Sadlers and Old Road a chance to make their first ever playoffs and give the players something to play for other than fighting for relegation year after year.
Yeah, and when you consider a team like Old Road, who would have been relegated last season if things had gone according to normal or according to as expected, I know now they're on the cusp of qualifying for the playoffs. They could qualify for the playoffs, mathematically speaking. So that is an amazing story. And I think when you have teams, as you rightfully say, Loshaun, having something to play for or to fight for, they kind of up it up a notch.
Okay.
And I think that's what Old Road and Sadlers, at least up till recently, have been doing. That they realize, well, look, we can make the playoffs. Even if we don't do well in the playoffs, we can get to the playoffs. It makes the regular season a lot more competitive because a team that would normally be a walkover is now a team that could knock you off your perch.
So is it then worth the change, because at the end of the day, I do think that the champion will fall or come from amongst the top 4 teams, which is either Keon, Connery, Village, or St. Paul's.
If we're being real about it, the championship is only between one team, and that's Village Superstars versus Village Superstars. Village. If we're being real.
That's one fan's perspective. That's one.
I think St. Paul's will have a say in that.
Yes.
I do
Yes.
think. Last night I said St. Paul's would win the FA Cup and go with the Premier Division. But what I also believe can happen is that one of these teams who are fighting to get into the 6, they can build up some momentum going into the playoffs and maybe upset.
They will upset. I do anticipate one or 2 upsets. The question is
a St. Paul's without Kiddy.
well, last night they put 4 past Spurs, and Kiddy didn't score any.
He's present. He has the it factor. Honestly,
Yes.
Yeah.
he does has the it
He's
factor.
an amazing player. Amazing player.
He's just scoring for fun right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
playing like a man possessed.
I-
Once he's on the field, expect something special.
And the thing is, I think he did contribute to at least 1 goal last night. And
Yes.
there were opportunities, I saw at least 3 or 4 opportunities where he could have actually taken on shots for himself and decided to be a bit more selfless and play on other players who didn't capitalize. I think
Right.
one person, I think Aiden Nurse,
Yes.
he capitalized on one of his assists, but otherwise the others didn't. But it wouldn't be fair to say that St. Paul's, I think they're a well-oiled machine. I looked at the midfield they took off and the midfield they put on, and you had quality
Right or
and
right.
experience all the way through. So
You want us to do like a comparison of Village Superstars versus SL Hosford,
What
St. Paul's, not even SL Hosford's
what I'll say is that St. Paul's first of all the defensive stability that
One of the
that's-
best in the league.
the best in the league.
Yeah.
20 games in, and they've only conceded 15 goals all season. So it starts at the defense. Rock
You
solid
want
at
us
the
to be
back.
real about SL
And
Hosford's kid. You want us to be real about it for once. Like
And-
you know within yourself. If you let St. Paul score first, it's over. The game
Yeah,
is over.
yes,
They
yes.
will hold on to a
Yes,
1-0.
yes, yes,
Because
but
everybody
they're
will be
very-
behind
they're very
the ball
difficult.
and Kiddy will just be at the pitch.
Yeah.
They're very
SL
difficult
Hosford
to
kid.
break
Play long.
And this one ball.
They're very difficult to break down, and they're very experienced
Yes, they are.
playoff
They've
team.
been playing. They've been a long.
They've been in the
this unit
playoffs
has been
almost
together a long time.
every
Yeah.
year for
Yes.
about 10
Yeah,
years.
they play the battle
Yeah,
tested.
so
SL Hosford's Kiddy, they use grit and experience. They like if you was to compare like the skill and everything to much other teams, is not there. But just talk about the grit and the determination. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
everybody plays.
I mean,
their
they
role.
went down 1-0 very early last night,
Yeah.
and we're like, okay, it's not over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
St. Paul's is going to find a way to come back. That's just who they are.
everybody was like, well,
Yeah.
they
And
scored too early for that man.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yes, and we always say that 78 minutes is when they really start to play.
Yeah, like
Because and a lot of the times, because Sadler's is the same way, they start to play at the 78th minute, but
Yeah.
the difference between St. Paul's and Sadler's is at the 78th minute, St. Paul's, the game will be at 0-0 for St. Paul's, but at the 78th minute for Sadler's,
there could be 2 goals down.
there'll be 2 goals down.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor for them. They don't concede much. They rock solid at the back. They're very experienced, especially in big games and playoff football. So
What do you think about Village then? What do you think of Village chances? Because
No,
I mean,
well-
they are the
well,
reigning champions.
Village
Yes.
fans are still good. I mean, right now they have some injuries and they have some players that are on the bench. So they're doing a lot of rotation. And one of the things that we talk about during the post game of the games that we cover, and even sometimes afterwards, we're packing up and we're just talking about the league, is that Village may have a depleted squad, but they're still getting results. I mean, Saturday night, they played well. You know, they had some interruptions and stuff, and their flow wasn't as fluent as in previous games, but they still came away with a point.
Yes.
So
yes.
no matter how, I mean, Village could have a bad game and still get result.
Agreed.
You know, that's how good they are.
yes,
So,
I'm not rating off Village. I still think they are the favorites to win it. in the last 2 seasons, I don't think they have lost 6 games total.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Let's be real for a moment. No.
so,
real stuff happening here.
so and they've scored, definitely they scored, looking at the table here, they've scored 79 goals this season,
Yeah.
79 goals in 20 games. So
That's
they,
a
they,
lot of goals.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
That's a lot of
I
goals.
mean,
So-
and you look at their bench. I mean,
Yeah.
from the attacking side on their bench, you could take off Kimari, and Bertie comes on,
Yeah.
and same effect
Yeah,
because he's
yeah,
a good
yeah,
striker.
yeah.
You're talking about 2 top strikers in the league.
Let's serious question. Who's the best player in the pack?
What do you mean, like attacker or
Best
just
player,
overall?
you know?
Not attacker, because clearly that's SL.
The best player in the pack, I think.
That's a challenging one.
I think it would be tight between Tyrone Hanley for me and Keith Freeman.
Yeah. Keith Roy has to be given. Keith Roy has to be given
Yes.
mention.
Well, I can't.
Have you ever been to the park when Kimari watches his play?
Kimari, yes, he has something about him, but I just believe he's a bit too small.
That little extra
small,
edge.
yeah.
That little extra edge.
He's a
yeah.
bit small.
Out
for
of
my-
these 2
my
players that you mentioned previously before Kimari Rogers, which one of them can use both feet?
Well, I know for sure Tyrone can. I think, Kiddy, we all know he's a left foot bully, but I don't think
He's a slouch to the right
No,
foot either.
no.
I wouldn't
But
back off the
I
right
get,
and
I
say.
get your argument with Kimari, but I do believe Tyrone and Kiddy edges him.
You ever saw Kimari play goalkeeper?
You're obviously a Kimari fan. You're obviously a Kimari fan. I'll bear that in mind going forward. I'll be looking out for him on the park to see where all of this confidence in Kimari Rogers.
No,
is
because I
coming
know the guy personally let
No,
me and him have.
He's a good
normal
player.
talks.
He's a good striker. But I agree with Loshaun. I mean, I probably can't tell you who's the best because there's so many, really good players.
Talented, exactly.
It's really hard to say. But I could tell you the goals I've seen from Freeman and a player that is not talked about much, but we should probably be paying attention to is Kareem Simmons from St. Peters.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, he's been playing some really good football of late.
That's the one that scored.
He scored
yes.
the goal from just outside the 18-yard box on Friday night.
Newtown?
Yes, against Newtown, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like not the
cartoon.
that's not the and that's not the first time he does that. I mean, he's just one of those players and he just never stops. He just keeps
Keeps
going,
running,
keeps going.
keeps
Yeah,
running,
you know.
keeps
And so
running.
he's somebody to
He's
look
a
out for.
talented young man. I've often questioned his mental strength, but he's definitely a talented young man.
Yeah,
And to be honest, St. Peter's themselves does.
yeah. We didn't talk much about them, but we
Yeah,
should.
they do have a lot of talent in their team.
Yeah.
I just think it has been getting everybody to click at the same time.
And they've had some injuries.
And they've
well,
had their injuries because 1 or 2 of their players are still sidelined.
Yep.
But they can always cause an upset on the right day.
Yeah.
So
Especially under the current coach, because you got to tip your hat off to Nets. Nets has found a way. There's something about Nets and this team,
Yes.
because the last time they went to the finals, he was the coach.
He was the coach again.
So he just has a knack of
Getting the best,
getting the
out,
best
of
out of the
pieces.
players, of these
Yes,
players.
yes.
So we have to really commend St. Peters.
And Connery, where do you guys? I mean, they have gone through a whole turbulent past few months. Do we give them a fighting chance?
Well, yeah, in a sense, and I'll say this: Connery right now is a tale of 2 halves. We're talking about pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Okay.
Since the return, since the restart, they have not been themselves.
Okay.
Well, first of all, they had a goalkeeping issue, where their number 1 goalkeeper wasn't available, and so they had the second tier goalkeeper who, with all his best efforts, didn't handle the pressure very well. Well, of course, Bully came back and anchored the goalkeeping. But there was just something, I think, mental with Connery since the restart. I don't know what it is. I can't quite put my finger on
They
it.
haven't been able to find
They
that
haven't been able to
fluency.
find that fluency.
Yeah,
because even teams that they should have been rolling over, they were struggling
Against them.
Yeah, but Connery is a team I've seen in the past. Although they've been out of form, they've found a way
To win games.
to win games and even make the finals, because the last finals they played in, nobody expected them
Nobody
be there.
expected
To
them
be
in
there.
the finals. In fact,
They-
they were many people had them to lose that finals
Yes.
because,
Yep.
well, to not make the final because
Yeah.
they had St. Paul's in that game,
And then
and they surprisingly they ran right over St. Paul's, and normally a strong defensive team. So yeah, but Connery, like St. Paul's, also have a core of players that have been playing for a long time.
Yes.
And even though they've lost some players to Keon and other teams, they still have that core. There too also the coach should be commended, Azim Jenkins, because Azim came in the middle of the first round and found the right points to push with that team and got them playing some excellent football, beating Village, beating teams that, the St. Paul's, Spurs, and really getting a good run of form. And then the lockdown came and I think kind of, injured their momentum.
Okay.
And so since then they haven't been the same. But as you said, rightfully said, Loshaun, they're a team that, is very experienced. They've been to 5 finals in the last 7 years.
Oh.
So they know what it takes to get there.
But I think they've won at least one of
They
them.
won at least one,
Yeah.
That was in 2013.
Yeah.
But they certainly know what it takes to do the right things to get there.
To get to that point.
Yeah, to get to that point.
Finishing up now at this point is what they need to.
Yeah.
Keon, Yellow Man, how is he gonna fare?
Well, I'm from Keon, and so I'm a big Keon supporter. Speaking last night in the park with both Als, they feel that Keon is a team to look out for.
The dark horse.
Yes, in the playoffs, because as Alexis Richard said, the assistant coach who runs with the Superstars, he feels that Keon attack is the most dynamic other than Village, and he feels that they can cause a bigger threat. Keon thus far, especially since COVID, they have been too error prone for my liking. They have had games they should have won and won easily. The FA Cup semi-finals comes to mind. The Newtown game comes to mind. The game they played
On the weekend.
and the weekend comes to mind. That they should have won. They dominated, but found a way to throw it away. So I believe
It could be a mental thing, maybe.
yeah, and if you look at the main core of the Keon team is guys under the age of 25.
Okay.
So
okay.
I
there's a bit of
think
inexperience. in
yes,
that.
I think they're
yeah.
2 years away from really competing in this
At
league.
this, to say
At the
championship.
championship level.
tier.
Yeah.
I will
Okay.
agree with Al on the assessment of the attacking. I think Keon's attack is probably one of the best in the league. But again, as you pointed out, the issue is really the mental and the defensive aspect. Because even since they lost that semi-finals against St. Paul's in the FA Cup, they should have been the one in the FA Cup finals this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, since they lost that, every game they've played, they've literally thrown away leads.
Yes.
They've built leads, give them away. They either draw the match or end up losing the match.
Oh my God. Okay.
So it's a real problem for them. And the thing about the Premier League is that if you go into, you have to go in with a momentum. So even though you're already qualified, you book your spot, it's always good to try and win games so that you go in the
Set yourself up
playoffs
mentally for the playoffs.
with that kind of momentum.
So quickly then around the table, got a few more minutes left. I deliberately avoided discussing the second tier of 4, except with the exception of St. Peter's, because I wanted to get your predictions as to whom we think will make the last 2 seats in the dance, as it were. I did a quick little breakdown here. We have St. Peter's, Newtown, Garden Hotspurs, and Old Road Jets. Garden Hotspurs and Old Road Jets on 30 points. Their games are Old Road Jets versus Village Superstars.
It's a tough one.
And then against the Garden Hotspurs themselves. Garden Hotspurs have to play Keon and Old Road Jets. Newtown, they're on 32 points, 2 points ahead of them. They have Trafalgar South Stars and Mantab. And then you have St. Peter's now, who have Security Forces and Saddlers. So I mean, the predictions are probably going to be similar all around. So let me hear them. Andrew, you could probably start.
Well, my initial prediction with the top 4 that's there, and I had St. Peter's and Spurs, which would have been probably the 2 obvious choices. However, considering what that looks like, Newtown has the easiest path, and so they may very well, if they keep their head on their bodies and focus, they could be the ones looking. And it's hard to imagine a playoff, a Super 6 playoff, without Newtown. It's really hard because, I mean, this is
It's
a
a
team
traditional
a
powerhouse.
traditional powerhouse. However, my alternate, and this might sound crazy, but I'm going to give Old Road a shoe-in. I just think that, I believe my original prediction will stand, But if there is any disruption, it's probably going to be Old
Old
Road.
Road. Now, the most they can get is 36. If they were to be victorious in their 2 games against the 2 McKnight teams, well, Village and Garden Hotspurs,
That would put out Spurs, for sure.
it would definitely put out Spurs. But Spurs have to overcome Keon first. So it depends on how they feel after the Keon game to see if they really think they want to put up a fight in the first place. And then you also have St. Peter's, who have the security forces, which is a giveaway, and Saddlers, which is a bit of a toss-up. Because Saddlers tend to have these little grudges sometimes against teams that beat them in the past. That tend to, so it's kind of unpredictable there. So what was
I think St. Peter's are going to be comfortable. I think they will make it in. Of course, mathematically they could, be in some trouble. But I think, especially going into Wednesday's FA Cup finals, if they were to win that, that will just be a boost of confidence for them. So I don't see them dropping points at this stage to the point that they're out of the 6. Spurs, like I said, they're my pick to get in. But again, they're missing some players as well. And they have 2 tricky games coming up.
Yeah.
So, anything is possible with that. But again, Old Road, the reason why I said Old Road is that their coach, Alexis Morris, is extremely confident and is a very good coach.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at the fact that he was the one who coached Connery to all those 5 finals that they've been at and gave them their first championship in 2013. So there's something about Morris
himself.
that, and especially for this Old Road team, because this is a team that he's familiar with the players, because he is at the Fairchild High School. A lot of these players came through the Fairchild High School system. So they know him. And furthermore, they were the ones who called him and said, hey, we want you to
Time
coach
to
us.
come back.
And he did. And right now, he's working wonders with Old Road.
What about your predictions then?
Well, pre-COVID, my predictions would have been St. Peter's and Saddlers to be the other 2, but Saddlers is from post-COVID has had made me change my prediction, and I had St. Peter's and Garden Hotspurs, but Spurs seem to be neutral in the last 3 games. St. Peter's, they have the points, they're comfortable, they have security forces, as you say, is a giveaway. They have Saddlers, who are in bad form and have a few big name players out. So I think St. Peter's are safe. Old Road, they have Village Superstars. If they could come out of that with something,
then they give themselves a
yeah,
chance.
yes. But Newtown, I feel maybe the other team
6.
playing Mantab and security forces. I think they
have what it takes.
Yes.
To come over the top.
Yes.
I have security forces to end on 38 points because I don't think St. Peter's to end on 38 points. I do not think that Saddlers will beat them. I think they will find it enough to beat Saddlers. I have Newtown as well to finish on 38 points because overcoming Trafalgar, South Stars and Mantab, if they can't do that, then they don't deserve to be in the 6. Spurs lost their opportunity last night. So again, they're dependent on the results of others, as well as even if Old Road Jets were to pull off the miracle and beat both of their 2 remaining games, they're still dependent on poor results otherwise, which might put it beyond their reach. But nonetheless, a good showing from them. Gentlemen, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. And obviously, there's a lot more to discuss, and there'll be a lot more, hopefully a lot more of these types of discussions going forward. But just thank you for being here. Took up a little longer than we wanted to, but hey, it was enjoyable nonetheless.
Yes,
and I would like to
my pleasure as well.
invite you guys back at some point in time in the near future. And for those folks who've been tuning in and listening in, thanks again for doing so. And we are tuning out right now from the bench meeting. It has been good. Have a good night and see you next week.